Hello everybody, my name's Caroline from Stockport Jobs Match and I'm here to talk to you today about careers within the recruitment industry. So just to get started, we're going to be talking today about a career in recruitment and covering things like what a recruitment agency does, why employers use recruitment agencies, career pathways in recruitment and the different progression routes that you can take as you work your way through a career. What typical duties you'll undertake as a recruitment consultant and what a day in the life of the job looks like, and how to get started in your career. I'm also briefly going to cover exploring your career options using the Stockport Jobs Match tool and how that can help you access jobs, training and employment support, as well as tapping into a range of careers advice tools, videos and additional resources for students, young people, job seekers, teachers, parents and carers. So just to get us started today, a little bit about myself and my career journey, because it often helps to hear other people's career stories and find out how they made their way. So like lots of people, I never really set out to have a career in recruitment. Where I've ended up wasn't necessarily what I dreamt of doing as a child or where I thought I'd end up as my career destination. The one thing that I did know growing up was that I liked to manage and organise things. I was a little bit bossy. I liked to be in charge of things and get to the bottom of why things were happening. I liked to work in teams, and I was very kind of driven and hardworking and knew that I wanted a job where I was in control of my own outcomes and that hard work would guarantee me the rewards at the end of it. So I was quite driven and ambitious in that sense. But I didn't really know how I wanted to apply that in a career. After finishing my GCSEs, I chose the A-levels route, just doing like what lots of people do, picking the subjects that I was good at. From there, I wasn't quite ready to get a job, in all honesty, so I decided to go off to university. There wasn't a subject that I was good enough at A-level that I wanted to do as my degree, and because I still didn't know what I wanted to do as a job, I ended up choosing a degree in business management because it was a bit of a catch-all and it seemed like it would lead to lots of different career options. And I ended up specialising in HR. So I learnt about lots of things doing a degree in business management. I learnt about economics, I learnt about marketing, I learnt about law, I learnt about business planning. But HR and the people element was perhaps the part that appealed to me most. I really like speaking to people, I like problem solving, I like understanding different people's perspectives. So kind of that personal element of business and running a business seemed to really appeal to me. And then once I'd graduated, I was looking around for different jobs. I applied for a few graduate schemes in HR and they were very competitive. I moved back home. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. And my mum actually called me one day when I was on the bus on my way home, and she said that she'd spotted an advert in the Manchester Evening News newspaper. You know, that's not necessarily the way that people look for work anymore or the way that people find work. But back then, the job pages within newspapers were quite a common thing that people would sit and leaf through. You know, today's the equivalent of going on Facebook jobs, maybe, or looking at different positions on Twitter. But my mum had seen a job for a graduate scheme as a trainee recruitment consultant, and I went off and applied and I got the job. And that's how my career in recruitment started. I didn't really know anything about what a recruitment consultant did until I actually went on the interview and found out more about it. And I just progressed my career from there. At the time when I started the job, I perhaps thought that maybe one day that would lead me to a route in HR. But I discovered that I really, really enjoyed it and it was something that I was quite good at, so it stuck. So in terms of my career route from there, I worked for a couple of years as part of a bigger recruitment organisation, and I started off as a trainee. And then I became a temporaries consultant. We'll explain a little bit more about what that means later on. And then a permanent recruitment consultant. Then I was a team manager, then a divisional manager. And then a few years after that, I decided to set up my own recruitment company, which to begin with was just me working on my own. And from there, it's grown into a small business based in Stockport that operates nationally and specialises in IT recruitment, as well as it says, delivering a range of HR and project consultancy pieces of work as well. So just to explain a little bit then about what a career in recruitment means and what a recruitment agency actually does. So the first thing to mention is that recruitment agencies work on behalf of employers, on behalf of businesses. If you're wondering, where does the money come from in recruitment? You're not actually selling any products. How do businesses operate? Well, what we do is we charge employers, we charge businesses like a finder's fee for helping them to recruit the staff that they need for their business. And that finder's fee, they might have to pay when the person starts the job. They might have to pay to engage our services to find the person in the first place. Or they might have to pay a little percentage on top of that person's hourly pay rate if it's just for a week or a temporary person that does a couple of months in the job. So we work on behalf of employers, and what that means is that as a recruitment consultant, your job is to work with businesses to understand what they do and what the different jobs within their business involve, so that when they're recruiting somebody, whether that's an office manager or a warehouse operative or a chef, you know about the day-to-day duties of that person's job, the skills and qualifications required to undertake the position in the first place, the personal skills that a successful candidate will need, and also what that company can offer in terms of training, benefits, and why their job and their business is a good place to work, and how you can almost sell that, almost promote that opportunity to potential recruits. And that means understanding the bigger picture about the business, what markets they operate in, who their customers and suppliers are, what areas they cover, and what their culture's like, the type of person who fits in well there and is most likely to succeed. And then another part of your role is to obviously go off and find suitable candidates. And that involves a range of different things. So you might work to attract them in the first place by doing some advertising, headhunting activities, sourcing, which is where you go out and find the people and contact them by telephone or face-to-face in a job fair scenario. Then you have to pre-screen them, which is where, as a recruitment consultant, you do the first stage of filtering. So you might, for example, have 500 people who apply for a job. Well, you're not going to send all of those to the employer because they're paying you for a service whereby you save them time and consolidate that recruitment journey. So you have to take 500 people who've applied for a job and decide who the best 5 or 10 are for you to put forward to the end employer for an interview. So that includes different stages. So we have the first stage, which is long listing, which is obviously a long list of people that you have to filter down. So you have to make decisions about what your selection criteria might be. So that might be things like they have to have this qualification, they have to live within 5 miles or 10 miles of the company, they have to be available for full-time work, they need a driver's license, they need to have worked in a similar sector. So, a manufacturing company and another manufacturing company might be the requirements of the job. So you have to complete the long list. Then you have to do a shortlisting process. So you might have then narrowed it down to maybe 50 or 20 people. And you have to then decide from those 20 who are the best 5. And you'll do that by interviewing people. You'll do that by testing their commitment. So maybe asking them to fill in some forms or complete an online test. And the ones who are most committed are the ones who are most likely to turn up for an interview and do the preparation and perform well. And then you have to be able to represent their CVs. So when you contact an employer and you say, I've got these 5 people who I think are great for your job and who I think you should see for an interview, they then might ask you questions about them. Why did they leave that job? What did that position involve? Did they work in a big team there? So they might interview you almost about the prospective CVs that you're presenting. So you need to know those people inside and out and have really done your work in screening them so that you've got a good idea of why they're a good fit for the job. And then you have to manage the recruitment process. So that'll be things like arranging interviews, providing feedback to people who've been successful and those who've been unsuccessful. So making sure you understand where they fell down in the interview and being able to provide that feedback constructively. You have to be able to manage job offers, which sometimes means being able to handle counter offers if the company they're currently working for maybe wants to keep them and buy them back. You also have to handle the negotiations of salary. If the company makes a job offer and the person wants to accept it, but maybe they have another job offer at slightly higher salary rate, there might be a few to-ins and fro-ins in terms of agreeing what the contract of employment will be and whether they're going to accept that job or another one. And making sure that throughout the process you complete all the required paperwork that shows that you completed a fair process, that you can evidence your decision making and why certain people were successful and others weren't, that you completed all the right to work checks, requested references, etc. So as you can see, a role within recruitment is really, really varied and actually really, really interesting as well. The other thing that I think is important to understand, whether it's because you're applying for a job in recruitment and you want to get a bigger picture for an interview, or whether you're just thinking about a career in the first place, is why employers and businesses use recruitment agencies, and why maybe for the long term recruitment is a really good career path and offers you stability and will be something that employers need to rely on for the years to come, despite the introduction of more and more types of recruitment technologies. Just as there are lots of new technologies introduced into other industries that improve how they work, it won't altogether remove the need for that human element within the recruitment journey. And therefore, recruitment as an industry is a fast growing one and one that will be around for many years to come. So certainly worthwhile investing in developing a career within. So in terms of why employers use recruitment agencies and what our advantage is, we're able to identify talent that those organisations can't tap into, either because they don't have the time, they don't have a dedicated HR team or a big enough HR team to manage their volume of vacancies that they're recruiting for, or simply the fact that as recruitment agents or recruitment consultants, our job is speaking to people every single day and knowing about different markets and different sectors. So, for example, my role as an IT recruiter could mean that I have a specialist knowledge all about people who are security cleared, or people who are web developers, or people who are app developers, or specialise in gaming, for example. And I will, on a day-to-day basis, I will map out the market of those people. I will speak to lots of prospective candidates. I'll learn who the main employers are, the types of projects that they've worked on, the salaries, the qualifications. I'll know all about that little industry sector, so that when a job becomes available, I've got a bank of people to ring who I know are looking for work, and I know who will be the right fit. An employer simply doesn't have that reach of contacts, and they don't have the time to build it because they've got their business to run. So using a recruitment consultancy to do that can help them find the right talent far quicker. I've also got the ability to track down passive candidates, so people who aren't going to spot a job advert and apply, people who aren't actively looking for work but who could be tempted. They're not out of work at the moment, they're already working, and they're not going on the job boards every day to apply and search for work, but they could definitely be tempted by a move and are speculatively keeping their eyes open for the right opportunities. And as a result of this contact that we have with candidates and job seekers on a day-to-day basis, it means that we can help organisations to save a lot of time and a lot of money in recruiting people. Now, you may think, how would we save them money? What's the reduced cost of using a recruitment agency when you have to pay for that service? And that's a valid question. Well, when you think about it, if you're going to do the recruitment yourself and you've got those 500 people who've applied for the job, for example, it's unlikely to be that number, but just as an example, you've got all the time that it takes you to go through those CVs and those applications and make those decisions. You've got all those people that you need to speak to on the telephone first to get more information about their applications and ascertain whether they're the right people for the job. You may then have to interview lots more people than are presented to you by a recruitment agency, and that's going to take up a manager's time. It might take longer for that person to be hired. Maybe if you find the right person but you don't manage the offer process well or the feedback process well, they might accept an offer elsewhere. And the longer that a job goes unfilled, the more cost that is to your business in terms of lost productivity, the more time it takes for a manager or 3 or 4 managers to sit in on interviews, the more time that loses in their productivity time to the business. So there is a cost associated with recruitment and lost labour within a business. So the sooner that we can help somebody find the right person for the team, and a person who stays there for the long term and sticks at that job because it was the right placement for them, then the better it is for a business. So we can help them with things like improved candidate engagement, making sure that people turn up for interview, that they're well prepared, that they accept a job offer because they're really committed to, we've engaged with them throughout the process, they know a lot about the business, they really want the job, and then when they get offered it, they start on their first day and they really give it them all. We can deal with all the problems. You know, we're not dealing with selling phones or clothes. We're dealing with people. And it's not about just finding the first person who'll take that job. It's about finding the right person and the right job and the right company who will stay there for the long term, as I've mentioned. So much of what we do is representing that employer brand, making sure that people are happy and that they come away with it with a fantastic job at the end of it, or a great member of staff. And obviously we also have access to temporary workers, so if they need somebody at short notice to cover sickness, absence, maternity leave, holiday cover, etc., as a recruitment consultancy, we can supply that too. So in terms of where a career in recruitment can lead, there is a typical pathway within recruitment. So it usually starts off in some kind of trainee role, and you'll either be a trainee recruitment consultant or a trainee resourcer. Now, the difference between those two things is a recruitment consultant will deal with all aspects of the recruitment cycle. So we call that a 360 role. So they will deal with employers. They will deal with the job seekers, so they will bring on the vacancy and do the sales side of things to work with the businesses in the first place, and then they'll go on to work with the job seekers to fill that vacancy, and they'll manage the process to a successful conclusion. So they'll deal with all aspects. A resourcer, on the other hand, will work alongside a senior recruitment consultant who manages the employer relationship, and they will only deal with finding the applicants. So you won't need to do any form of sales to bring on companies who want to work with you. You won't need to deal with the businesses. You'll just need to, you'll be given a job description. So a senior consultant will say to you, I'm looking for a HR manager or whatever it may be, and they'll tell you some more about who they're looking for, what they'll be doing, the company, etc. And then you'll go away and you'll do that advertising, that screening, the long listing, short listing, all of the telephone calls, the tests, the interviewing people face to face if required. You'll handle just the candidate side of things. So that's what a resourcer does. And that's a really good way often to enter into a recruitment career, because you'll start off building relationships, speaking to people on the phone, asking questions, learning about the market and developing your expertise before then you have to deal with the side of things that's dealing with employers. So it can be a good way to transition into a full recruitment role by starting as a resourcer. So once you've done your trainee side of things and you've got to know things quite well, and you start to have more and more employers that you're working with and managing multiple recruitment campaigns, and you get busier, you'll then move to a full recruitment role where you'll either be doing temporary recruitment, so for people on short-term contracts, a day here, a week there, a month, or a fixed-term contract for say 6 months or 12 months or whatever it may be, but short-term assignments, or you'll deal with permanent recruitment. And again, you may specialise in a particular sector or even a niche within a sector. You'll then progress to a senior recruitment role or even an account manager. So again, an account manager won't do any form of sales. They'll have that many clients already that they'll just work with that 5 or 10 companies. Then you'll usually be given the opportunity to move into a team leader or a team manager role. So you'll look after other consultants or other resources underneath you and support them to bring on new clients and meet their targets. And then a divisional leader or manager, which tends to also have operational responsibility, looking at the profit and loss, some of those business decisions, hiring, training, etc. for your own team, a bit like running your own business. There are some alternative career paths, such as being an in-house or an internal recruiter. And what that means is that you'll work for one business and be part of the team within HR that recruits the staff for that business. So, for example, you might work for, Stockport NHS on their internal recruitment team, and you'll just recruit staff to come and work for the NHS. And that involves many of the same duties. So obviously advertising, interviewing, screening individuals, writing job descriptions, managing offers, offer paperwork, etc. But it's slightly different insofar as you're just promoting one organisation, obviously, and you'll deal a lot with internal managers to find out who they're looking for so that you can recruit the right people for their teams with the right skills. You might be a headhunter, which is somebody who goes out and headhunts, tries to attract people from other organisations to come and work at a competitor organisation. So often for that, you're given a list of the company's direct competitors, or even a list of people that they'd like to come and work for their business, and you'll go out and try to make contact with them, have meetings with them, persuade them to make a move and to come and join the organisation that you're representing. You might work in talent acquisition, which is a combination of all those things, but also looks at planning for future projects. So, if we're going to need 5 care workers in 6 months' time and 10 care workers in 12 months' time, how are we going to recruit those to our business, and what might our long-term strategy be for getting the right numbers of people into those jobs longer term? And you also then may choose to broaden out into HR. So recruitment is just one small part of the wider HR agenda, but often gaining experience in a recruitment role will then stand you in good stead to apply to a broader HR position, where you might then be involved in other aspects like redundancies, disciplinaries, employee relations, training, learning and development, employee wellbeing, etc. So having a starting point in one area like recruitment can help you with a HR career further down the line as well. So we've covered most of the typical duties of a recruitment consultant. As you know now, they're incredibly varied. The role is really diverse, really interesting, involves lots of different elements to the job. But I'll just recap on what a typical day, well, there is no typical day, but what some of those typical duties over the course of a week or a month may look like. So first of all, you'll be involved in sales. And account management. So account management is when you've won the sale, when you've brought on an employer who wants to work with your recruitment agency, then managing their account, and marketing to win new clients. So that may be that you usually in terms of how you do sales and bring on a new employer is a combination of calls, like cold calls. You'll pick up the phone and you'll try to speak to the hiring manager, the HR manager, the sales manager, the IT manager, whoever it is who's hiring that person. And you'll speak to them about the candidates that you've got that are suitable, and would they like to see them for an interview? Would they like to see their CVs? You might talk about other organisations that you've helped to recruit staff that are similar, and your general expertise at being able to help that company solve the problem of finding staff. It might be that you send emails. It might be that you use social networking sites like LinkedIn. It might be that you go to in-person networking events, or it might be that you get referrals and recommendations from either candidates or other employers directly to that organisation that you're trying to work with. But there is a sales element to the job. You then need to use your expertise to build relationships with them and build trust and get them to use you as a recruitment consultancy, as well as understanding candidates, building relationships with them and building market knowledge of different areas. So that involves a lot of telephone calls, a lot of reading CVs, a lot of using job boards. So you'll know job boards in terms of looking for work and adding your CV onto them. But recruitment agencies will pay for access to those recruitment databases like Total Jobs or CV Library or Indeed, and we'll be able to search through all of the candidates that are registered on there and read their CVs and filter them by the sector or the location or the salary type. So a lot of the time we spend reading CVs and understanding the market and then calling those candidates to find out more about their jobs. And that may involve conducting interviews with them as well. There's also an administrative element to the work, so writing job advertisements, editing CVs or writing out CVs, recording information on databases, so perhaps recording when you've had a telephone conversation with somebody and what you discussed, or putting a note in the diary to call somebody back at a certain time, or arranging an interview either online or in person with them. and then managing the recruitment process to a successful conclusion. So a lot of that's troubleshooting, might be sending out interview confirmations, offer paperwork, chasing up references. So there's a full role there of both sales and customer service and administrative and sometimes financial, negotiating the costs and fees for things. So a really, really varied role day to day. And an in-house resourcer or recruiter will have similar types of duties, but as mentioned before, some of the sales side of things and account management will more be in terms of speaking to internal managers about the vacancies that they're looking to recruit and understanding what it is that they're looking for. So what do you need for a career in recruitment? Well, in terms of the skills itself, you need to be a really good all-rounder because, as we've said, it's a very, very diverse role that involves lots of different elements. You also need to have a strong work ethic. So it is hard work, and when you first start out in your career, you're building what we call your desk, your reputation, your knowledge, your bank of job seekers, your bank of employers. So the first 6 months can often be the hardest because you're just starting out, you don't have those relationships, you don't have that expertise, but then that's pretty much the same in any industry. The first period you need to not prove yourself, but develop that knowledge, listen, learn, and really work hard to make sure that it's successful long term. If you do that and you really invest the time and the effort and the energies into making your first period within recruitment successful, this is something that you're going to build on for the years and years and years to come. Those contacts in your phone book, those relationships, that knowledge of different markets is only going to grow as you spend longer within the industry. So it's definitely worthwhile doing. You do need to be target driven and able to work under pressure. So there is an element of what we call KPIs, which are key performance indicators that you're measured against. And those may be things depending on the organisation that you work for, like how many calls you make per day, or how many people you get to interview, or how many placements that you make. But there will be some targets around the role that you have in order to measure whether the activities that you're doing are the right ones. You need to be able to meet deadlines and be a really good project manager. You're juggling lots of different things. You won't just be working on one recruitment process at any one time. You'll be working on many. So you need to be able to juggle different interview schedules, remember what's going on, who you're representing for different jobs. So you need to be able to be really organised and good at mapping those things out. Naturally, you need to be a good communicator. You need to be confident, like speaking to people. You need to be able to ask questions and make decisions about people's suitability for jobs. So you need to be decisive and able to get to the bottom of people's work history. You need to have a really good interest in just how businesses work and how people work generally. Just have that curiosity to research and find the answers to things. You'll need to be a really good problem solver. Things do go wrong. People don't turn up for interviews sometimes. People change their mind about a job offer. As I mentioned before, we're dealing with people, not products. And sometimes that means that things don't always go to plan. They miss a bus, they're late. They've not done the preparation for an interview, or they, get nervous on the day and say the wrong thing. So you need to be able to deal with some of the setbacks and have that resilience to dealing with when you've prepared endlessly for a situation, but it's outside of your hands and it doesn't work out. You need to be able to bounce back from that and have solutions ready to present to the employer as an alternative. And you also need to be a really quick learner and willing to learn. You're going to join an industry where you're surrounded by people who've done it for longer than you, who are better than you, who know more than you. And sometimes that can be a little bit hard, being the new person, but also the most inexperienced and feeling out of your depth. And we call it imposter syndrome, feeling like you're not really good enough to be doing that job. But actually, it's just a case of continuing, of keeping learning, of keeping trying, of watching other people with experience, finding out what they do well, asking their expertise and how they got to be where they are, listening to their telephone calls, observing their interviews, perhaps going along to a meeting with them and learning what they say. This is an industry where you will only get better by watching others. So as much as that can seem strange sometimes, that you want to be able to do it all yourself, you're going to be more successful if you observe others that have been in the industry longer than you. So that's everything all about being a recruitment consultant. I just wanted to talk briefly about Stockport Jobs Match. So Stockport Jobs Match is a service that my business delivers on behalf of Stockport Council, and it's a really useful tool whether you are looking for a job within recruitment or in any sector. But it's also a good way for you to find out about lots of different career paths and explore the local jobs market here within Stockport and Greater Manchester to find out what different career paths are available to you. So the first part of Stockport Jobs Match is that it is a job board. So it has around 8,000 to 10,000 vacancies on there at any one time within 10 miles of Stockport, across all sectors on a permanent or temporary basis, part-time or full-time, as well as volunteering opportunities, apprenticeships, traineeships and work experience. So whether you are looking for a part-time job to go alongside your studies, some evening or weekend work or something for in the holidays, or whether you need to gain a work placement before you apply for college or university or an apprenticeship or a full-time job, it has something on there for absolutely everybody. And it's also good to search through those jobs. If you have an idea of what you want to do as a career in future, go and have a look and search how many jobs are there doing that here in Stockport and Greater Manchester, and what qualifications, experience and skills are they looking for, so you know what you need to work to develop. In terms of using the service, you can register for a free account. It's completely free to use. You can upload your CV, cover letter, ID, all of the documents on there if you want somewhere safe to store them. You can use it obviously to apply for jobs, but you can also shortlist jobs and maybe come back later or show them to your careers advisor, parents, carers, family members, friends, and say, you know, I'm thinking of doing this one day, or I'm thinking of applying for this now. What do you think? And then you've got a record of your job search activity, so it stores the shortlist history and the application history, which is great if you need to show maybe your work coach or your careers advisor or someone what you've been doing and what you've been looking into. But you can also set up job alerts. So this is a really good idea if you're looking for something specific, like a graduate scheme or an apprenticeship scheme or a work experience within a particular area, or a part-time job with certain hours, for example. So you can put in the criteria that you're looking for in terms of location, sector, working hours, etc. And then you'll receive an alert every time a new job's added. So it'll just save you time on your job search. And the other thing about Stockport Jobs Match is it's also a training directory. So there's around 150 fully funded, that means free, courses that are available on there at any one time. Some of them have eligibility criteria, so you might need to be 16 plus, 18 plus, 25 plus, or under 30, for example. And there's a range of different local training providers listed on there. So if you see a course that doesn't exactly fit your hours that you're looking for or the qualification level that you want, you can also contact the provider who's offering it to see if they do any similar courses. So it's a really good way to search for things, whether you are looking for something small, like I need to improve my leadership skills by going on a short course and doing a project, or whether you want something specific like a CSCS card for entering the construction industry, or forklift truck driving license to move into manufacturing and warehouse, or some counselling, MVQ level 2 counselling or MVQ level 3. Whatever it is that you're looking for, there's a range of different things on there, and you can filter by sector there too. We also have an events calendar that tells you all about the latest job fairs, recruitment events, online webinars, free sessions that are happening across the Stockport area. So if you want to go along to a graduate jobs fair or find out more about a recruitment open event for hospitality jobs or airport jobs, for example, it's a really good place to just find out what's happening. and stay informed with, you know, which new employers are coming here, big businesses that are opening new offices and things like that. It's also a really good idea perhaps to just follow us on social media, and I'll put the details on the slide at the end. Otherwise, Stockport Jobs Match has got an absolutely fantastic careers hub with over 200 different careers advice articles, covering everything from sample college application forms, writing a budget for heading off to college or university, how to apply for your first job, what an apprenticeship application form should look like, what an employer is going to ask you at interview, what the soft skills are that they need, what the local labour market looks like, how to enter temporary work or register with an agency, as well as things like career guides in different sectors, featured employers. So if you're perhaps looking for work experience in engineering, go and look on our engineering career guide, and there'll be a list of employers locally who tell you, you know, all about the different things that they do and give you the contact details to get in touch with them. There's a range of different career planning tools, free CV templates, a huge amount of information on there, tons of videos, and bite-sized resources for you to use in school, college, at home, in groups, different things. So be sure to go and check that out. Again, if you register for a free account, you can actually bookmark the articles and fact sheets. So if you maybe been set some homework to go and find out about the local labour market in Stockport, or certain employers, or a career in transport and logistics, you can go and do that research, bookmark and save the articles that you've read into your account, and then show your careers advisor or your work coach or your parent or carer, for example, what you've been doing. We're not going to have questions because today's a recorded session, but if anyone does have any questions at any point in the future and would like to get in touch with me, either to talk about careers within the recruitment sector, if you're going on an interview or applying for jobs within the recruitment sector, or you need some work experience or help doing up your CV so that you can start applying for those types of roles, please do drop me an email. I'll be happy to help you and give you a bit of mentoring and coaching and advice and guidance where I can. Alternatively, if you need any support with Stockport Jobs Match, accessing resources, just finding work experience, volunteering more generally, or advice on different careers in different sectors, feel free to get in touch. The email address is info@stockport-jobsmatch.co.uk. And as mentioned, it's a really good idea to follow us on social media. So Facebook and Instagram, it's at Stockport Jobs Match, and on Twitter, it's at JobsMatchSK. Hope you find the session useful, and please be sure to check on the Stockport Jobs Match website if there's anything else that you need. I'm sure you'll find something there to help you plan your future career pathways. Thank you.